Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Gabriela and I work in the sales department at LAUMAS. And today I will be your moderator. I yield the floor to my colleague, Mr. Pietro Grottoli, who is going to be the speaker for this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabriela, and thanks to all of you for being here with us today. My name is Pietro Grottoli. I'm the head of the LAUMAS sales department, and today I'll be the the speaker of this event. So, what are we talking about today? Today I'm going to introduce you our complete load cells range, and we will try to analyze the criteria that you have to take in consideration when it's time to select a load cell for a specific application. The goal of this presentation is making you more skilled about LAUMAS load cells range and more independent in the product selection. Before starting, a quick reminder, because reminders are always good, you know, about the load cells installation. A few months ago, we have realized some useful videos and a specific webinar about the guidelines for the correct installation of weighing systems. Videos and webinars are available on our website in the section Webinars and Tutorials. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you to do it because they are really useful and they can answer to many of the common questions that arise when it's time to realize a weighing application. And now we can start with the presentation and check at our strengths about load cells. So there are some key points that we have to take in consideration. The first one is the compatibility. So the main part of our load cells are compatible and interchangeable with the most popular models produced by the most important brands. That's one of the reasons why you can find in our range several models apparently looking similar, but all different because of the signal output, of the impedance, of the IP protection class, the different certifications, and so on. So this variety for us is necessary to grant the compatibility. That's certainly one of our strengths. The second strength that we have to keep in consideration is about the stock. So we have about 50 standard load cell models in our catalogs, and all of them, except the very special ones, are available on stock. Just to give you an idea, we have about 40,000 pieces load cells on stock ready on delivery. And in general, our medium lead times are 2-3 days from ordering date. Supporting the stock, we have a wide range of capacities. So, with our standard load cells, we cover a range of capacities going from a few grams up to 750 tons. And for every single model, we have several capacities available in order to be able to offer you a suitable solution for any application in the force and in the weight measurement. The fourth strength is that we have many load cells made in Italy. So, like any other producer worldwide, we realize cost-effective load cells as, for example, single points and shear beams in China for a matter of production costs. But 40% of our load cells, and especially the high-quality ones, are still made in Italy, and we are really proud about it. The last strength that we keep in mind is that we realize customized load cells. As I told you, we have our own factory in Italy, and so we can produce customized load cells made according to the customer's requirements. We can make it with any shape, any capacity, up to 2,000 tons. We can make it for high and low temperatures. with double bridges, with integrated analog output, and so on. This is a niche market, but it's certainly an added value, and certainly one of our strengths, because not many producers worldwide are interested in realizing customized load cells. So, how to choose the right load cell according to your application? When we approach a new application, we base our choice on two main factors, which are environment and the type of weighing. Knowing the environment is absolutely necessary for us to start understanding which kind of load cell could be suitable. If, for example, we are talking about food or chemical industry, we will certainly need stainless steel load cells, and we will exclude alloy steel, for example. At the same time, if we have to realize a scale for a warehouse, probably the stainless steel will not be mandatory, and we could think about alloy steel load cells with galvanized mounting kits to reduce the costs. If it will be, for example, an installation in the floor industry or in the oil and gas, we will probably need load cells certified for explosion-proof areas, and so on. So, one of the first things that we have to keep in consideration and that we need to know is the environment. Once that we know the environment, we need to know the type of weighing system that we have to realize. Is it a truck scale? Is it a conveyor belt? A dosing system? Do we have to weigh, I don't know, a big silo or a small hopper? Is it a mixer with vibrations or a static weighing, as for example a platform scale? And again, which is the scope of the weighing? Just as a monitoring system, or do we need high accuracy? It has to be legal for trade or not? So there are many, many questions about environment and about the type of weighing system. When we approach a new application, we always have to ask all of these questions to our customer. We have to do a sort of interrogation. This is a key point, because more information we get, more we can reduce the range of the choices, and we can identify and select efficiently the right load cells and the right mounting kits for the specific installation. Doing the operation of filtering that I described you before, there are many things that we have to keep in consideration, and we can certainly start from the certifications. So, the system that you have to realize has to be legal for trade or not. I say that because very often people ask for load cells OIML R60 approved in class C3, C4, C5, and so on. But the question is, do you really need to realize a weighing system legal for trade or not? Or is it just for internal use? When we talk about truck scales or retail scales, for example, the main part of them has to be legal for trade. So the load cells have to be OIML approved. And higher is the accuracy class, higher will be the resolution of the scale that you'll be able to obtain. On the contrary, when we talk about the industrial sector, almost 90% of the weighing systems are for internal use. So the OIML approval for these systems is almost, I would say, useless. Very often, people contact us to realize industrial scales or industrial weighing systems, asking for load cells approved C4, C5, and so on, because they want to be more accurate. But this is not necessary, and it's mainly a waste of time and money, because when you realize a weighing system for internal use, there are no restrictions about the number of divisions and about the maximum capacity of the scale. So in the main part of these cases, the load cells are used setting a resolution that is maybe 5 times, 10 times bigger than the accuracy class according to IML. So talking about load cells approved C3, C4, or C6 for these applications has really no sense. I wanted to focus on this point because it's important that you know it. Then, of course, the IML approval is a guarantee of quality, and that's the reason why the main part of our load cells are IML approved. But very often, when a producer obtains the OIML certification for a specific model, is mainly for commercial reasons. And the load cells produced by that brand and without this certification are accurate as the others, because the production process is same. Said that, we can go back to the real certifications, and we can start from the metrological ones that I described you initially. So, if a system needs to be legal for trade, we need to know in which country it will be installed. Because we have, for legal for trade applications, we have 3 main certifications. The OIML, which is mandatory in the EU and accepted almost all over the world. Then we have the NTEP, that is specific for the US market. And then we have the PAC, or Pattern Approval Certificate, which is specific for the Russian market. So the country of installation is important. If a system needs to be installed in hazardous area, we need to know which regulations are in force in that specific country. Again, the matter of the country. All of our load cells are ATEX approved, IECEX approved, and EACEX approved. ATEX is mandatory in the EU and accepted in many other countries. IECEX is recognized almost all over the world. And EACEX is specific for Russia and for the rest of the Eurasian Economic Union. Keep in mind that we can also realize customized load cells, ATEX and IECEX approved. And one more time, I repeat that not many producers can offer such certification for tailor-made load cells. Then we have another certification that is brand new for us, and it is the 3A certification. It's a very specific one related to hygienic processing, equipment, and sanitary standards. It is getting more and more popular, so if you need to realize a weighing system for pharmaceutical or food industry, probably your customer will be happy to know that you can offer load cells fulfilling these standards. As we have seen before, depending on the environment and on the weighing system that we have to realize, we have to think about the constructive material of the load cells. We have load cells made in aluminum, we have made it in stainless steel 17.4 pH for very aggressive environments. We have it in stainless steel AZ420 when the stainless steel is required, but the environment is not that bad. And we also have alloy steel load cells for common use. Still connected to the environment, we have to keep in consideration the IP protection class. So we have load cells with IP class going from IP65 up to IP68 and IP69K. I always use the example of pharma and food industry, for example, and these are environments where you need to clean the scales almost daily with water with pressure and similar. So for such applications, you will probably need load cells with IP68 or IP69 certification. Last but not least, we have to talk about the capacities. That is another important factor to identify the right load cells for your applications. So we produce load cells from 250 grams up to 2,000 tons. And it means that we have solution for any kind of scale, from the smallest to the biggest ones. To support you and to simplify your life in the load cell selection, we have added some filters on our website. I recommend you to use it because they are really user-friendly and useful to identify quickly the products suitable for your specific installation. As you can see in this quick video, you can filter by constructive material, by certifications, sensitivity, accuracy, protection class, and so on. So I recommend you to use it the next time that you need to select a load cell, because it's a great tool and it makes your life very easy. And now we can start checking at our load cells range divided per family. As we can see in this slide, we realize almost any kind of load cell. So we have single points, shear beams, bending beams, tension and compression, load pins, and so on. So the variety is really huge. And we can start from the single points or off-center load cells. As the name says, these load cells are generally used individually, and the main feature is weighing correctly off-center loads, as we can see in this quick animation. For every single model, we declare on our datasheet a maximum area for the off-center load. It is mandatory not exceeding this area, because you risk to damage the load cell or to weigh incorrectly. The areas covered by these models go from 150 millimeters per 150 millimeters up to 1.2 meters per 1.2 meters. Usually single points are low capacity load cells, and the smallest in our range is 250 grams, while the biggest one is for 2 tons. In general, higher is the capacity, bigger is the load cell, and the off-center too. There is always a proportion between the maximum capacity and the off-center load. So, in general, if a load cell has a small capacity, has a small off-center too, and vice versa. Now we can start checking at some typical applications realized with single points. So the most common ones are certainly platform scales and retail scales. But you can also use it to weigh small roller conveyors, small hoppers and tanks, and filling and packing machines. Other applications where we generally install single-point load cells, but in pairs, are weighing bridges for conveyors for dynamic weighing applications, and machines for the web tensioning. There are many more applications about the single points and about all the load cells that we will see later, but we just selected the most typical ones that we realize almost daily. From the single point, we can move to the second family that we are going to analyze, that are bending beams and shear beams. As we can see, we have several models to cover the biggest possible range of capacities and to grant the compatibility with the other producers in terms of dimensions, IP protection class, and signal output. Just for your information, I want to clarify you what's the difference between a bending beam and a shear beam, because very often our customers ask for that and are confused about it. So the main difference is given by the positioning of the strain gauges installed in the load cells body. In the bending beams, the strain gauges are glued horizontally and bend when the load is applied. In the shear beams are glued vertically and, of consequence, shear. In this drawing, we can see a clear example of the installation of the strain gauges. Low capacities from 5 kilograms up to 300 or 500 kilograms are always bending beams, because the bending is more suitable and accurate for small capacity, while the higher capacities from 500 kgs up to 10 tons are all shear beams. The other difference between the two types is that the life cycles of shear beams are higher than the bending beams. For your common needs, I would say that when you realize a weighing system, you just have to think about the maximum capacity of your scale and the application that you have to realize, forgetting if a load cell is a bending beam or is a shear beam, because this information is quite useless to realize the weighing system. Now, we can check at the main features of these load cells. So, generally, these load cells are used in groups of 3 or 4 and connected in parallel, but in some specific applications, you can also use just 1 or 2. As we can see, our range of capacities goes from 5 kgs up to 10 tons. And as I explained you before, we have several models to be interchangeable with the most important producers worldwide. To be installed with our load cells, we have 3 main families of mounting kits. The family TF, PV, and PS. Each of these mounts is available completely in stainless steel or in galvanized steel, and has specific features to comply with specific applications. So, for example, the TF series is suitable to weigh static hoppers. The PV is perfect to weigh conveyors, while the PS series is the better one when you need to weigh, for example, mixers with high vibrations. And now we can check at some typical applications realized with bending and shear beam load cells. So we have, for example, floor scales, we have hoppers, silo of medium-small capacity. We can also use it to weigh mixers or big bag fillers or dischargers, and also roller conveyors. Again, these are just examples of applications. There are many others, but I would say that these are the most popular ones. Now we can switch to another important family that is composed by the low-profile compression load cells. As the beams that we have seen, the compression load cells are generally used in groups of 3 or 4, or even more connected in parallel, but you can also use it singularly. So these are just indications. The range of capacities goes from 200 kilograms up to 750 tons. But from time to time, we also realized bigger ones, up to 2,000 tons. These load cells, depending on the models, can be coupled with several mounting kits. So, for example, for the CBL series, which is our most popular, we can offer the V-series mounting kit. It's a complete mounting kit, user-friendly and including anti-tilt system and LAUMAS against lateral forces. This family of mounting kits is suitable to weigh structures from a few hundred kilograms up to hundreds tons, and is generally used to weigh silos and tanks. As alternative to the complete mounting kit, we can also offer stay rods and bases to help you in building mounting kits on your own according to your specific needs. We also have some specific models of mounting kits especially made for CLS load cells and realized with the same concept that we used to realize the mounting kits series PV and PS that we have seen for the shear beam load cells. So we have the PV CLS and the PS CLS. Same concept, same reasoning for the selection. And here again, we are back to the typical applications. As I told you, certainly tanks and silo, especially of medium-high capacity, are the most popular applications for which we suggest to install this kind of load cells. But you can also use it to weigh hoppers, mixers, and again, big bag loaders. And now it's time to talk about a brand new load cell in our range. It's the model FLC that we have designed and developed during the last years and that we are going to put on the market in the next few months. It's a compression load cell to be installed directly on the foot. It is born to be used in groups and covers capacities from 500 kilograms up to 20 tons. Its peculiarity is that it has been designed to fulfill hygiene norms about the sanitation and respects the 3A regulations that I described you in the beginning when I was speaking about the certifications. The mounting kit that we recommend for this kind of load cell is a special foot that is compliant with the same norms about sanitation. But it can also be installed with any other kind of foot, rigid or self-centering. The typical sectors of applications for these load cells are certainly, obviously, pharma and food industry, where sanitation is a must for the customer. So you could think to use it to weigh, for example, milk containers, refrigerated storage tanks, hoppers and reactors, all installed in food and pharma. Always in the field of compression load cells, we can now check at column compression load cells. These load cells are generally used in groups, mainly from 4 to up to 10, 12 pieces also, and connected in parallel. The capacities are quite high, and as you can see, the range starts from 15 tons up to 60 tons. The mounts that we can offer are bases that are generally used to install these load cells in truck scales, because this is the main application for these models. And we also have a special mount called VCOC that is realized to weigh big silo. As I said to you, the typical applications are mainly two for these load cells. So we have the weigh bridges that are the main part of the installations involving such load cells, but we can also use this model in conjunction with the model of mounting kit VCOC to weigh big silo and tanks. We have seen compression load cells with any shape and dimension, and now we can check at the tension load cells. Again, as we can see in the slide, we have several models to cover the biggest possible range of applications. As the main part of the other load cells, these load cells can be used singularly or in groups connected in parallel, depending on what you have to do, obviously. And again, the range that we can offer is quite wide. It goes from 15 kilograms up to 250 tons. As mount for these load cells, we just propose spherical joints because usually the installer takes care of the mount on his own. So it is not necessary that we provide a complete mounting kit or set for the installation. There are many applications involving tension load cells, as for example, cranes and lifting equipments in general, but you can also use it to realize crane scales. You can use it to weigh big conveyor belts, especially in the concrete sector. You can use it to weigh hoppers, again, big bag loaders and dischargers. You can install it in testing machines, and you can also use it to revamp old mechanical scale, transforming the scales from analog to digital. Similar to tension load cells, we also have tension and compression load cells. So these load cells can be used in groups, of course, but very often are used singularly. The peculiarity of this model is that you can use it in both directions to measure the forces, both in compression and in tension. Again, the range is very big, from 50 kilograms up to 200 tons. And we do not offer mounting kits for these load cells, because usually the customer installs it directly into his machine and takes care of that. Typical applications, as I was telling you, are testing machines, testing equipment, and presses in general. Then we have double shear beams. These models are similar to single-ended shear beams that we have seen before, but the method of installation is different. With the single-ended beams that we have seen before, the load cell is fixed on one side and the force is applied on the other side. While for double shear beams, the load cell is fixed on the two sides and the force is applied in the middle, in the center of the body. The range of capacities is quite high and goes from 9 tons up to 27 tons. We have two different types of mounting kits. The VCOC DTL, that is same as the VCOC that we have seen before, and that we use to weigh tanks. It's identical to the model that we have seen for the column load cells. And then we have the model VDTX, that is especially made for DTX load cell. And the peculiarity of this model is that it can be used both in tension or in compression. Typical installations for these load cells are mainly weight bridges, so same as the column load cells. And especially the model DTX is very used to do onboard weighing applications. In our standard range, we also have anchor load cells. Now we are checking at a niche sector, let's say, but still important. This model is always used singularly and has just high capacities from 30 tons up to 250 tons. As option for this load cell, we can offer the basis for the load distribution. And where do we install these load cells? These load cells are generally used in monitoring applications of containment structures to control continuously the force applied on tunnels, on dams, on bridges. So it is mainly a safety device to control how the concrete reacts against the forces coming from the external. Now, we can check at our load cell for wire rope measurement, and it's the model FUM. This load cell is always used singularly. The capacities that we can cover go from 2 tons up to 40 tons, and it is compatible with wire ropes with diameters from 6 millimeters up to 36 millimeters. It is generally used to revamp old cranes and lifting equipments where safety limiting systems are missing, because it is very easy to be installed, as it can be clamped directly on the wire rope, and the structure doesn't need mechanical modifications. And here we are with our standard load pin, model LAU. Load pins can be installed singularly, but also in groups again, depending on what you have to do. Our standard model has a capacity from 5 tons up to 20 tons. And the typical applications are again in lifting equipment. So load pins are mainly used as limiting devices in cranes and lifting equipment. The installer removes a mechanical pin of a pulley, installing a load pin to measure the force. Frankly speaking, the LAU model, which is our standard one that we always have on stock, could be suitable when the crane builder is flexible and can adapt the system to it. But in the 90% of the cases, the load pins that we realize are customized and have specific mechanical dimensions and are designed according to the customer's requirement in order to replace the existing mechanical pins. Always talking about particular load cells that we have in our range, we can take a fast look at the model LPAD. It's designed to test cars and motorcycle brakes. And here we can see a simple sketch of the installation. The capacity is just up to 100 kilograms, because generally the force generated with a hand or with a feet is not so high. And this is the usage of this model. In the end of this panoramic, we can take a look at our customized load cells. As I said many times during this presentation, we are used to produce tailor-made load cells according to our customer specifications. It's a niche market, but it's an added value, because not many producers do it. We can realize almost any kind of load cell for any environment. So we can make tension links, load pins, load cells for submersion applications, special double shear beams, and so on. We can make it from a few grams up to 2,000 tons, as I said you. We can make it biaxial or triaxial to measure both the force and the moment. We can make it for high and low temperatures with integrated analog output. And we can also realize it with ATEX or IEC-EX approval. So, in case that you need something special or unique, even for just one piece, for example, remember that you can rely on us for such projects. To complete the presentation about tailor-made load cells, we can take a look at a special application that we have realized installing it. So, as I told you, we develop many special load cells for special installations and curious applications. But unfortunately, very often we must sign NDAs with our customers to protect their projects. So we can't show all that we have done, and I guarantee you that we made many. So here we have an example for which we don't have to protect anybody. We have no secrets about it. And here we can see a rugby scrum machine that is generally used by the rugby players during their daily trainings. So we have equipped every pad of the machine with tailor-made biaxial load cells to measure the force generated by every player during the scrum training. Doing it, we can monitor how much and in which direction they push the pads. And with the data that we are achieving, we can help them in improving the training and the performances. For this application, we have also realized an nice app using our electronics to monitor and register the data of every single player and to check the progresses with the passing of the time. All the load cells that we have seen during this presentation are analog load cells. But even the digital ones are getting more and more popular on the market. And we are also developing a model for track scales that we expect to put on the market in the 2022, so the next year. But our solution when our customer asks for digital load cells is the digitizer LCB. The watchword for this product is versatility, because it is compatible with any analog load cell made by any producer worldwide. It can be screwed directly on the load cell's body or even installed very close to it. It is very compact, fully stainless steel made, and with an IAP protection class. But the greatest advantage of the LCB compared with real digital load cells is that it can be equipped with almost any field bus for the connection to almost any kind of PLC available on the market. So, using this kind of product, any load cell becomes digital. And we can say it's really a universal device, so keep it in mind in case of needs. Okay, that's it. There should be probably much more to say about our load cells, about applications and so on, but I couldn't kidnap you more than this. So I would say that my presentation is completed, and now it's time for your questions. So I give the stage to Gabriela. Gabriela, did we get any question during the presentation?
Is the LCB only for the single load cell application?
Well, it is mainly used for single load cell applications. You can also connect the load cells in parallel first and then connect it to the LCB, but we recommend to use it when you have just one load cell, because in the other cases you can use common weight transmitters, for example.
Okay, we have a second one. What is the maximum depth for your custom submersible load cells?
Well, that's a nice question. For a specific case, we reached 200 or 300 meters, something similar. We had to take care about a lot of things because there is a lot of pressure at that depth. But yes, 200-300 meters is what we reached. But we did really a few because it's not a so common request.
Next question is, what type has better lifetime? The bending beam, double beam, or compression?
Sorry, could you please repeat?
Which type of load cell has a better lifetime?
So the longest lifetime, okay, sorry.
The better,
yes. Between bending beams and shear beams, certainly the shear beams. We talk about 8 million cycles. And when I talk about cycles, I mean from 0 to the full scale. So it's not so common that a load cell in standard weighing application is loaded from 0 to the full scale. Bending beams are generally 4 millions or something like that. But then on request, we can also make customized load cells that can reach up to, well, I think 150,000 millions or something like that. But these are very unique and very special load cells, not the standard ones. And in compression load cells, the lifetime is more or less like a share beam, so about 8 millions.
How do you choose load cells for silos, tanks, hoppers, or else?
Well, as I said in the beginning, I firstly start from the environment. So, which is the area where we are going to install the system? Because I need to understand if I need to install load cells in alloy steel or in stainless steel, for example. After that, I need to know the capacity of the tank or of the hopper. In general, as our policy and also for a matter of costs, we recommend to use the shear beams for medium-small capacities, and we recommend to use compression load cells for medium-high capacity silo. Because the load cells, the compression one, get more and more competitive according to the dimension of the silo. So highest is the capacity and lowest is the price ratio.
Okay, next question. Is the dynamic load acceptable for pin load cell? For example, the car lifter system with chain.
Yeah, it is acceptable. Then, of course, it depends on the type of dynamic load that you are applying. So we always recommend, in any case, to over-dimension the capacity of the load cells. If you know you have a dynamic application and you can lift, I don't know, 5 tons, and you need safety protection, let's say, install a load cell that is 3-4 times more big, that is 3 or 4 times bigger than the capacity of the lifting system itself. And then you have the percentage of related to the overload braking and to the mechanical braking, that again in load pins is generally 4 or 5 times more.
If you don't have any more, we would say that we've reached the end of the presentation. We hope that this presentation has been helpful and interesting to all of you. If you have any more questions, you can always write an email to sales@laumas.it, and we will be very happy to help you. So that's really all for today. Thank you very much for your time, and see you soon.
Thank you. Keep well.